her recent stateside visit to Florida, we met up with a rider who, at the time, was sitting joint top of the North American Eastern League standings, alongside the current Longines FEI World Cup champion, McLean Ward. Having enjoyed an illustrious international show jumping career, Alison Robitaille took time off a few years ago to have a family. But since that break, she's made a successful return to top-level competition. After a fruitful qualification campaign, the US rider will be heading to Europe for April's World Cup finals. So when did Alison first set her sights on reaching Paris?
Probably before the World Cup season started, looking at the year, probably last April, kind of mapping out and saying what are my big goals for qualifying for the World Cup finals. Probably since I was a kid, I've wanted to go, and I think a lot of people dream of winning the World Cup finals. But that was a huge goal for this year.
Alison hails from Virginia, and her parents, Bertram and Diana Firestone, have owned and bred very successful racehorses, including the 1980 Kentucky Derby winner. So the love of horses is in her blood.
I first started riding, really, some of my first memories are on a pony and around horses. I grew up on a farm. I remember my mom bringing me to the barn when I was 4, 5, 6, and it's really helped me with my love of horses. When I started having lessons on a pony and just loved it, and it was really started, my whole world revolved around getting back to the barn to ride more, and started competing and loved it. My parents definitely inspired me with their own riding and their own love of horses. And then I was fortunate enough to ride with Katie Prudent, and I was watching her win Grand Prix when I was still on ponies, and I wanted to grow up and do the same thing.
It wasn't long in Alison's riding career before her ambitions were realised.
In 1995, I won my first International Grand Prix in Gijon, and sort of went from there and got on some developing rider teams for Nations Cups with the US team, and it just kept going. It was such a huge honor to be on the Nations Cup team with Ann Krzinski and Margie Engel, and going to Rome in '97. George Morris was the chef de keep, and he put me first to go in the Nations Cup, and it was an honor, and I was nervous at the same time, but it was just such an exciting time in my career.
In 1998, Alison competed at the World Equestrian Games in Rome, where she was the top-placed US rider in the individual jumping event.
I remember being really nervous the night before and lying awake in bed and couldn't really believe it was real. But then you get on your horse and get going, then it's just down to business. My horse Major was, he was a really special horse in my career, and it feels like yesterday when I think back to it.
Alison won a team silver at the 1999 Pan Am Games in Canada, and then a few years later, after countless Grand Prix victories and Nations Cup appearances, her career path changed somewhat.
I was the alternate at the Olympic Games in Athens in 2004, and in 2006 I got married and had 2 children, so took a little break from the sport.
Alison's daughters are now 8 and 6, but when they were younger, something was willing their mum to get back again to competing on the international circuit.
I think a little bit of everything. It was for sure in my blood, and I always kept my hand in it. I kept teaching, and I kept riding at a lower level, bringing some young horses along. But I remember being pregnant with my second child and thinking I really miss competing at that level and really want to get back to it.
It took longer than Alison expected, juggling family life with a return to top-level competition, but thanks to the guidance of her coach, Michelle Grubb, she gradually worked her way back. In 2017, Alison twice competed overseas for Team USA in the Nations Cup, firstly in Coapexpan, Mexico, and secondly in Sweden at the Falsterbo Horse Show. This was all part of her 2018 World Cup plans, which have now paid dividends after what has proved a successful qualifying campaign in the US.
I'm very excited about it. Really, it's an accomplishment with children or without children or anything, but it was exciting for me, especially to really set this goal to qualify for the World Cup finals and have things go so well and go pretty much according to plan.
Alison will be heading to Paris with Ace, her 13-year-old Dutch warm blood gelding, who's been instrumental in her return to the top.
Ace, I've been riding for 2 years now, and he's such a special horse and feel so lucky to have him. I was rusty to get back at the top level, and so it took us a little while to really get together. But now I feel like we've really meshed and have had some great rounds together. He's traveled a fair amount, being on the Nations Cup in Coapexpan last year, and also Falsterbo. So he's a pretty seasoned traveler. I already have an invitation to Dortmund, so I'm planning to send him over probably the end of February, and then I'll just fly back and forth in March. So so he's in the groove, and I'm in the groove in Europe as well before the final.
We wish Alison and Ace the best of luck in Paris. And next month's show will be dedicated to events surrounding the Longines FEI World Cup finals. Can McLean Ward and Isabel Burt retain their titles? Only time will tell. So until then, from me, Izzy Clark, and all the team, goodbye.